All right, welcome everyone to the July 18th Board of Supervisors meeting, and we will begin with a Pledge of Allegiance.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we are starting out with a public hearing, and I call to order the public hearing to consider and possibly adopt Ordinance H.R. 453 to authorize the purchase of the property at 1485 Valley Forge Road. Mr. McKenna.
Thank you, Dr. Gussie. I've marked the following board exhibits for the hearing this evening. Board Exhibit 1 is the proof of publication of the notice in the Daily Local News from July 8th, 2022. Board Exhibit 2 is the proof of publication of the notice in the Suburban from July 10th, 2022. Board Exhibit 3 is the notice sent to the Township email distribution list on June 28th, 2022. And Board Exhibit 4 is the ordinance draft for consideration this evening.
Thank you. All right, I will now ask for a motion to adopt H.R. 453.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any board comment? I will just say that I'm excited about this opportunity. It opens up many possibilities, including a fire EMS substation, and I think it's a really smart move by our township. Any other board comments?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is that we've looked for a property for the Berwyn Fire Company for the substation for a while. I mean, in that area, originally when Chesterbrook was designed, there was a substation or a fire station put in, designed to be in Chesterbrook that eventually never got built apparently. And they're currently in a relatively untenable situation in the tent, kind of right on Sweetsford Road there. So this is a great solution. It's a property that's for sale, it's available, we can buy it, and I think it solves a lot of problems for us. So I'm excited about it also.
Bottom line for me, it's an excellent choice for the present and for the future, and gives us the township a lot of flexibility, and gives the fire company lots of flexibility. So this is really a good thing after a long search.
I wanted to say I think this is a terrific solution for building a proper station for Berwyn Fire Company. It's a large parcel. It's flat. It's got a lot of great possibility. Last week at our Parks and Rec board meeting, one of the board members asked if part of this parcel could be considered for parks use as well. So the Parks Board is excited to brainstorm about other ideas that would really help the township that could be placed in that same parcel.
Any other board comment? All right, and to start off public comment, I have a statement from Andrea Testa, who is Chief of Paoli Fire Company and couldn't be here tonight. She would like us to state that we at Paoli Fire Company are very happy that the township is dedicated to help the fire and EMS providers in this community. What benefits one company benefits all of us. This show of support and long-term commitment to fire EMS is much appreciated. Thank you. Do we have any other public comment tonight?
There is one hand raised virtually.
Hello. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
The agenda materials refer to an agreement of sale that is part of the ordinance, but the agreement of sale I could not find anywhere on the township website. And I wondered if the Board of Supervisors had seen that, and if you have, if you could describe the terms of the agreement and also the plan for the site and its ongoing operation.
We have seen the agreement of sale. Mr. McKenna, do you want to kind of summarize the major points?
Well, it's rather extensive, so I'm not sure exactly the items that you'd like to know. We have a 45-day due diligence period from the time the agreement is signed. It's not yet signed by the township, obviously, until the ordinance is passed. It is signed by the Cradle of Liberty Council. The purchase price is $1.8 million. There are pretty standard contingencies in there for a commercial purchase, including clear title having to be provided by the seller and our due diligence for inspections of the properties.
And has there been an appraisal completed?
An appraisal has been completed,
And the value was,
enough to justify the purchase price of $1.8 million.
and is that not going to be publicly available?
No, not at this time.
Okay.
After you agree.
Okay, so now what's the financial impact to the township going to be going forward here? I mean, are we going to be responsible for the maintenance of the property and the utilities? Will the fire company be paying a lease? Will it change the contribution that the township makes to the fire company, either upwards or downwards, operations and capital? What's the overall plan?
Hi, Mr. Clark. To answer your question, Mr. Martin, myself, are going to be meeting with one of Mr. McKenna's associates later this week to actually start discussing the terms of the lease, both with Berwyn Fire Company and the Cradle of Liberty, who we expect to be there for about a year. So those are details that we have to think about and consider as we work through the lease with both of those. But all of that, the utilities, the regular maintenance will all be a factor in everything. And there will be a value, obviously, to the lease with Berwyn. I think at this point, without speaking for the board, I don't necessarily know if the board's contemplating actually receiving funds from Berwyn on a monthly basis, but that is, like I said, that'll be determined based off our conversations with the solicitor's office and as things progress.
Certainly one would think, as the board contemplates spending this 1.8 million, that you would have some kind of general parameters that would kind of govern the results of those negotiations, i.e., will the township be thinking it's going to be contributing more to the fire company as a result of this, or are you going to say we want it to be neutral, or, I mean, any general guidelines to help the negotiators here?
Not at this point. I think, again, we're going to factor in, some of the contributing factors, I'll say, are the square footage. Again, like you talked about, the utilities, the maintenance. But again, that's also a discussion we'll have to have with Berwyn Fire Company to figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I understand that there's many things to kind of be resolved here. It is a little worrying to be entering into this kind of very open-ended kind of situation here. The taxpayers don't really know quite what's going to be the outcome.
Yeah, can I just talk for a second? Ray, this is David. So,
Yes.
I mean, we're responsible for providing fire and EMS in the township. They're in a substation, a temporary tent right now that they can't stay in, and they need to move to someplace else in the area. The response numbers, and I'll ask, there's a bunch, some of these guys are sitting here right now, I asked them maybe to stand up and talk about, but the response numbers in this part of the township have gotten significantly better by having a substation located over here, or over there, over there. So, and this is the only piece of property we've been looking for a while. This is the only piece of property that's been available along kind of the area we've circled. So it's, from a resident perspective, I get that some of the finances still need to be worked out, and exactly how we're going to be supporting Berwyn Fire Company, how much the Boy Scouts are going to pay for the year that they lease part of the building back from us, all that stuff. But from a taxpayer perspective, this is something we just have to do. I mean, we need a fire station in this part of the township. So.
Ray, this is Mark. Yeah, and I'll tell you, part of my thought process is this, aside from what everyone else has said. Aside from the fact that it's a good location for a fire station, I think part of my thought process is, and part of some of the things I've discussed with staff, is that if for some reason this doesn't work out, and anything can happen, I think we're getting this at a reasonably fair enough price that if for some reason we have to turn around and sell the property, we're going to be able to do that and we're not going to suffer a loss. So I think we're in a pretty good spot. This was an opportunity that came up. I think we felt it was an opportunity that we didn't want to let slip by, not just because of the location, but because of a lot of other factors. And we felt that, at least I felt that, that it was worth the risk, and I felt it was a small risk, because I feel that if we need to, we could turn around and sell the property.
Right, Murph, I want to mention to you about your concern about not having all the T's crossed and the I's dotted. I'm maybe exaggerating a little bit here, but we have some of the T's crossed and some of the I's dotted. And we've spoken with the fire company about things and how things are going to proceed forward. And I have no doubt that the details are going to work out with them wherever they fall on leasing. And I'll just leave it there. We're not going to negotiate this tonight. We're not going to talk about it tonight in detail. I get your concern. Vis-a-vis the Cradle of Liberty, they want another year here, and we're going to work things out with them moving forward. So I feel really comfortable about this. I normally am not one who wants to, I sort of am conservative when you're making big moves like this. But this is one that we absolutely must make, and we will work out the details in the right way for the township and our residents and taxpayers here. And I just have no doubt about that, and we will enhance the delivery of our EMS and fire service, and that's what we're going to do.
Both of those comments, thank you, supervisors, were very helpful. And I certainly completely understand the benefits. And I just want to be sure, and this further discussion has been helpful on that we have some general sense of where things are going to be kind of operationally and cost-wise as we go down this path. So I think it was very helpful to have that extra discussion, so thank you.
It looks like we have another hand raised.
Mr. Pavar, this is Township Manager Martin. I'm just making sure that your comments are related to the public hearing for the purchase of the property. You can talk. I can only ask him to unmute. I can't unmute him.
Sorry, am I unmuted now? Hello?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. I apologize. I thought, please tell me when it is time for raising general public comments. I would like to speak then. I don't have anything to contribute for this particular discussion.
That would be under item 7, new matters, citizens, item B.
Thank you very much. I'll lower my hand. Thank you.
You got it. Thank you.
Looks like we have one more raised hand.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi, this is Pavel. I'm over at Potter Lane. New to these and relatively new to this area. Been here for, 3.5 years. So a couple of questions, and apologies if I missed this on the website. One, are there any concerns related to noise? Just, I don't know a whole lot about fire stations, but, being within an earshot, if they go off, with a siren at night and whatnot, are there any concerns there?
I think maybe one of our Berwyn fire members could come up. I know that they've spoken about their studies on this. Do one of you want to come up and speak? I think that it's not an issue, but they can speak to it.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
So the question's about noise of responding apparatus, I guess. At nighttime and anytime there's not traffic on the road, there's not really going to be a lot of siren. I mean, we use the siren to move vehicles out of the roadway. There is no house siren or anything like that planned, if anybody's familiar with those on top of firehouses. So the location certainly makes sense from a noise standpoint, being right next to the Turnpike and the Turnpike Service Plaza already. Does that answer your question?
Got it. I think so, yeah. I think you're saying at night, because we have 2-year-olds, obviously always a concern. At night, there's not really plans for if the fire goes off somewhere. You guys are, cruising down Valley Forge Road. That's typically saying a siren is not going to be blaring.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, we don't blow the siren just to hear the siren. We blow the siren to move traffic out of the way. So if there isn't traffic, there probably wouldn't be a siren.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Oh, it looks like we have one more online, and then you can come on up. Michelle Berger?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. One, I wanted to voice my support for this location. I know that the township has done its due diligence in looking at possibilities and locations, and this seems almost like a perfect one. A couple of quick things that I'd like the Board of Supervisors, as you move forward, if this is approved tonight, when there is design, is that you consider the gentleman that just spoke lives on Potter Lane. I believe that this 6-acre tract backs up to a lot of cul-de-sacs that have already been impacted by the berm that was built by the Turnpike Commission. And there are a lot of young families that have moved into our neighborhood. I do live in that neighborhood, not at the end of a cul-de-sac. So I would just ask that with the design that there is some consideration that it does impact many houses that back up to this property that have already been impacted by the Turnpike Commission. Another thing to consider for those that are not familiar, we do have quite a few Turnpike employees that walk up and down Valley Forge Road, typically in the middle of the road for their own safety, because there is no sidewalk from the bus stop to the Turnpike for them to get to their employment. So any designs that would be considered would be great if there can be an enhancement for them to be able to traverse from the bus stop to the Turnpike Commission for their employment. And then third, and I know this is an item that you've gotten grant money for, was the improvement of the traffic lights along Valley Forge Road. And I think it ties into a little bit to you acquiring this property. And that would be that the township, both internally and the school district internally, as well as Board of Supervisors and school board, work cooperatively in understanding the needs of those traffic lights along Valley Forge Road, because they will be impacted by a fire station or an EMS station. And the school district has already done a traffic study on Valley Forge Road. It was pre-pandemic for during the school year, and would love to have a cooperative discussion about how we can best serve all the traffic needs on Valley Forge Road. Those are my comments. And thank you again for considering this location. Again, I want to say that I support the station at this location.
Thank you. Want to come on up?
So Fran Convery, 19 Brookmead Road. 30-year resident, I'm about probably 300 yards or so up from that site. So just a couple questions. Is the Boy Scouts of America's sale, is it at all involved in the bankruptcy proceedings? Is it through the bankruptcy court or is it direct?
No, it's not through the bankruptcy court, it's direct.
Okay. So as a resident, very much in favor of the substation and supportive of that. I guess what concerns me is 6 acres seems like a pretty sizable site for that use. Do you have any immediate plans for alternate use? Or you're saying you're very excited about potential other future uses? What might those be? And what will be the process and protocols or public hearings for other uses in the future? How will that be handled?
So for the immediate, I think fire EMS is what we're thinking. For the real immediate, it's going to be in that same building.
Okay.
With a tent behind the building, most likely. And down the road, the vision would be to potentially build a station there. In terms of other uses, it is a big property. Personally, I see that pretty far out. It would be township property that we could think. It's very visionary, I think, and anything built there, I think, would go through many public processes.
If you have to rezone it for other uses and then potential land development, that would all go through the regular process of.
Okay, including a potential sale, as Mr. Freed mentioned, in the future, if that were to come about?
Well, any sale, whether, would have to come back to the board, yeah. If it, for whatever reason, didn't work out and needed to be sold, there would be another agreement, there'd be another process, there would be a public comment on that.
Okay, great. Again, very much in favor. I think it's a great thing.
I just wanted to comment also, and I commented about it earlier, the Parks and Recreation Board is interested in possibilities for this property for future park use as well. So, whether they get it, I don't know, but I know they're going to be.
Future parks or parking, you just said?
Parks, like park and recreation, okay. Not parking lot.
Okay.
Thank you.
So again, more about the process. Anything that future use would have to go through public hearing and comment?
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, do we have any other public comment?
Hi. I just wanted to repeat what we've said privately and publicly to the supervisors and the staff. Berwyn Fire Company greatly appreciates all the hard work and effort on this project. I think this is going to be terrific.
Chief, could you just spend another second on noise on Valley Forge Road? Because that is the one question I'm getting from people. Noise on Valley Forge Road. And I know you operate in a very dense, in the current Bridge Avenue station, you're in the middle of a neighborhood, so you're used to how this works. Will you just on the record, just say how you operate? Because I know I'm getting that question from people.
Yeah, I think there's some stuff that we obviously need to talk about with the township and figure out. I think if we improve the sight lines coming out of the property, we can probably minimize the need to blow sirens coming out of the property. As long as people can see a fire truck or an ambulance is trying to pull out, shouldn't be an issue. I believe, certainly, I'm not sure about the traffic light at Valley Forge Road and Walker Road. I would imagine that there's traffic preemption on that. So what that does is, in layman's terms, there's equipment on the fire trucks and ambulances that we trigger the light to turn green long before we approach it, which controls the intersection for us. Again, minimizes the need to blow sirens. I believe there's one at Valley Forge and Walker, and there's certainly one traffic preemption at all the other lights. So depending on time of day and how much traffic is in the intersection, there certainly will be sirens, but there's already sirens today from the existing positions, no matter where we're coming from.
Yeah, I was going to point out that they're already operating a substation, not that far. So considering the building itself isn't going to have sirens going off, it's not going to be that different from what is already operating.
Right. Yeah, I can't imagine anybody even living very close to it's going to notice any big difference in hearing sirens or hearing vehicles responding. Sure.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right, hearing none, this is a roll call vote, and I will start with Supervisor Miller.
Aye.
Supervisor Humble.
Aye.
Supervisor Wysocki.
Aye.
Supervisor Freed.
Aye.
Supervisor Basker.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion carries. And I am now going to close the public hearing for HR 453 and call to order the public meeting. Thank you. And we will begin with announcements. The Park and Recreation Board meeting, scheduled for September 14th, will be held in Wilson Farm Park instead of the community room. A Board of Supervisors meeting will be added to the calendar on Wednesday, October 5th, 2022 at 7 p.m. at the Township Building for the purpose of presenting the 2023 preliminary budget. And finally, there are open positions on the Park and Recreation Board and the Historical Commission. Send your letter of interest and a brief resume to Tredyffrin@tredyffrin.org. We move to the approval of minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of the June 21st, 2022 public meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. We move to Township business. The board met in executive session prior to this meeting to discuss legal and personnel matters. All right, now on to supervisor liaison reports. Supervisor Miller.
The Planning Commission has not met since the last supervisor meeting. We are meeting this Thursday at 7 p.m. in this room. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Humble.
Thank you. The Parks and Recreation Board met last week on July 13th. One of the big things that we discussed was a presentation by 2 middle school students as well as the Chesterbrook Civic Association. Ronan Lynch, age 14, and Dom Pecora, age 13, appeared before the board to talk about adding a bicycle sports skills park in one of Tredyffrin's parks, and specifically they mentioned Mill Road Park, and the reason why is because it does connect to the rest of the trails that go through Chesterbrook and would be easier and safer for bike riding kids to get there because of the existing trails. They talked about the proximity of other bike riding trails and the need for it, and their past experience with it. In Tredyffrin, there have been at least 2 bike skills parks built by the kids and their parents, one on a school district property in Chesterbrook that was raised, and one in another part of Chesterbrook. 2 in Chesterbrook, in environmentally sensitive areas that have cost the Chesterbrook Civic Association substantial monies to raise those and remedy the wetlands impacted by these bike parks. Honestly, I think it's very noble of the Chesterbrook Civic Association to be backing the kids on an area trying to take away any opposition that might exist between the two, and truly trying to work together. So the kids talked about the way these are built. They had examples of how these can be built and how much space they might put. In addition to the 2 boys who were speaking on this presentation, there were at least 20 other middle school age boys who are enthusiastic bike riders and their parents. This room was packed, so there really was not any extra seat left over. So one of the things we talked about with them was trying to firm up more of the idea and to consider locations, and then they will be coming back to us with more detail. Supervisor David Miller was also present at this meeting, and because he has been very in on the ground floor regarding the bike park that have just popped up in Chesterbrook, but also he was there to speak about possibility of a bike park or fitness course going around in the township parks, specifically Wilson Farm Park. This has been discussed earlier this year at the Parks and Rec board meetings. So it's something that everybody seemed enthusiastic about. We just need to keep moving that forward. We also had presentation by Nancy May of the Environmental Action Committee, and she was talking about the Trex recycling program, which has been very, very successful in our in our township and how many benches we got, and that they're continuing to do this. We are very grateful to the volunteers who staff this program, because they go out to the various collection boxes and gather them all up, load them into their cars, and then take them off to the various supermarkets that then support the Trex program. And one thing I did ask for was more of these collection boxes at other of our parks, because I think some people with their neighborhood parks, they may not realize that we're collecting these here at the Township building, as well as Wilson Farm Park and Stratford Park at the library. We also had a continuing presentation by a resident of Easttown, Mr. Alfred Manwaring V. He has been promoting over the summer turning part of Wilson Farm Park into a disc golf course. We can make public, I'll ask for his presentation to be made public. It's the reason why the next Parks and Rec board meeting will be at Wilson Farm Park instead of in the community room, is because the board wants to walk the area of the park where they're proposing clearing in order to put in this disc golf course. So basically all the disc golf course would involve removal of trees and brush in all of the natural area that already exists in Wilson Farm Park. And it's a big ask, so we want to understand the impact. So the section of the meeting at the park will be the pavilion that's closest to like where the Veterans Monument is with the great big flag. So that's where we'll be meeting initially, and then at some point we'll start the walk through that park area. So anybody who would like to go along that walk too, I'd suggest show up at 6 p.m. instead of 7 p.m. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Wysocki.
The zoning hearing board met on June 23rd and took two actions. Approved the extension for 1 year of an application for a variance to construct an addition to a dwelling on Hillside Road in Wayne. Secondly, approved a variance for construction of a shed on a residential property on Dixon Lane, Malvern. Now, for the main event. The zoning hearing board held a special meeting on July 7, 2022 to announce its decision in the validity challenge of applicant Finery LLC and Greenbridge Development to the Rural/Conservation District zoning designation applicable to the Picket Post property, 355 Chase Road, Chesterbrook, PA. The zoning hearing board issued the following order, quote, "And now the 7th day of July 2022, upon consideration of the applications of Finery LLC and Greenbridge Development LLC for substantive validity challenges to the RC zoning district of the current zoning ordinance for the property which is located at 355 Chase Road, 1AX parcel number 43532.3A. It is hereby ordered the applicant's challenge shall be denied." Now, the zoning hearing board's decision and order totals 72 pages. For some brief context, I would like to read the final 4 sentences of the zoning hearing board's decision. The current ordinance and the provisions of the RC district are valid as to the property. 2, the current ordinance and provisions of the RC district are valid as applied to the township generally. 3, the applicants have failed to meet their burden of proof for all theories they have advanced in regard to the validity of the current ordinance and the provisions of the RC district. And lastly, the applicants are not entitled to site-specific relief. So that was quite a victory for the township in this matter. And for the residents of The I believe the entire township. The next meeting of the zoning hearing board is on July 28th in this building. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Freed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Tredyffrin Township Historical Commission met on June 15th, 2022. I believe the biggest announcement for folks is that the Chester County Town Walk, which is a series of historical walks that are taking place throughout the county, the Tredyffrin, the one being sponsored by the Tredyffrin, is going to be on July 28th. It will be, among other places, the Jones Log Barn. I know the Historical Commission's putting a lot of effort into helping to organize this, and it sounds like it's going to be a great event. The next meeting of the Historical Commission is this Wednesday, July 20th. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Basker.
Thank you, Dr. Gussie. I'm going to start out with an apology, which is that I had made notes on both the Environmental Advisory Council and the Library Board of Trustees, but I picked up the wrong notes when I came to the meeting, so they're sitting at home, and unfortunately I'm not able to give reports. I will do that for 2 meetings next time, so again, my apologies. The Environmental Affairs Council met June 23rd, and the next meeting will be July 28th. The Library Board of Trustees met on June 28th, and the next meeting will be, I believe, August 23rd. I don't think there's a meeting in July. But in any case, I apologize again, and I will give a complete report next time.
Thank you. All right, we will now move to the motion to authorize beer garden at Stratford Park for the Roots Festival. Mr. Duraco.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Our Parks Foundation, as well as the EAC, this is kind of a joint request between them, are requesting a beer festival for their second annual Roots Festival at Stratford Park. Last year, I believe they raised funds for the rain garden at the park. This is pretty successful for them, so they're looking to expand their fundraising capabilities, and this is one of those tools that they're hoping to use. I don't know if anybody's here. It doesn't look like it. But
I know that Amber Levy is on online, but I don't know if she's planning on speaking.
So I can answer hopefully any questions that the board might have.
All right. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. We will start with board discussion. Any board discussion?
What hours are they going to operate? I'm just curious, and who's sponsoring it? Who's the actual beer provider?
They're going to work with Hillary Mallory to determine. I don't have the exact times, but we'll be back in front of the board with an agreement with, I would imagine it's going to be La Cabra, but we'll be back with that agreement, so we'll have all that information at that point.
Okay, so we'll see the agreement and actually approve that stuff. Okay,
yes.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I see Ms. Levy's hand up. She might be able to give us more detail about the hours and the event itself, if you wanted to have that
go
up
ahead.
now, or if you want to wait for more board comment.
I think we can go now.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Yes, we are planning to work with La Cabra for our festival, and it's going to be a Sunday afternoon from 3 to 5:30 at Stratford Park for the hours.
Thank you. All right. Do we have any other board questions or comments?
I think it's a great idea. I think the more that we can build awareness for putting in the rain gardens, and if it takes a beer garden to build a rain garden, I think it's a good idea. The only thing I ask the EAC to reconsider is the name of the festival as the Roots Festival, because it's so close to the Philadelphia Roots Picnic, which describes itself as a music festival. So even if you Google Roots Festival, you get the Roots Picnic and everything else that goes along with it. So I get it, Roots, it's a garden, it's a great idea. I just think if we can just come up with a different name that stands out a little better. Thank you.
Any other board comments? Any public comments or questions?
So I will just support that comment. First I heard about it, and that's what I thought it was the Roots Festival down in the city of Fremont Park.
Ms. Levy?
Thank you so much for that observation, Supervisor Humble. I was not aware of that music festival. Unfortunately, we've already started with some of our promotions, so I'm not sure that we can change name this year, but that is definitely something that we can look at for next year. But I can double check and see if we have anything that's actually in print yet moving forward, and if we don't, maybe we can make a pivot this year. But thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for all of your support. This fundraiser is a pretty big deal for the EAC and the Parks Foundation and SAGE, and we are using this opportunity to build some collaboration amongst other environmentally minded folks. I've reached out to Riverbend, I've reached out to McCaig, and we're trying to build this into an opportunity and an environment where we can expose our residents in our community to environmentally minded folks that partner along with our collective missions.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right, hearing none. This is not a roll call vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right, we move to the motion to adopt Resolution 2022-15, approving an intergovernmental cooperation agreement between Tredyffrin Township, Downingtown Borough, Schuylkill Township, Kennett Township, and East Vincent Township for specialized police services. Chief Beatty.
Thank you, Dr. Gussie. This police department is requesting the resolution to be adopted by Tredyffrin Township. Back in August of last year, the entities that make up the Chester County Emergency Response Team were working under mutual aid agreements dated back to 2014. They realized there's opportunities and benefits from formalizing this type of an agreement, a joint cooperation agreement, which is approved under the Pennsylvania Intergovernmental Cooperation Act, Act 77 of 1996. It allows for the establishment of a entity that will help to facilitate acquisition of equipment, possible grants, also structure for the organization, and also the potential for liability policies to help mitigate direct impact for each of the municipalities. There's 5 municipalities originally on this resolution that are starting. There's 27 total teams or townships, boroughs for the Chester County response area. The goal is to get these first 5 up and running, to get the entity approved and going, and then the other municipalities will act upon it. This resolution has been looked at, reviewed by many of the solicitors. Patrick McKenna, our township staff, looked at it and made great comments that were also incorporated into it, working with some of the other solicitors from the other townships to get to a working document that is before you, and that's what we're asking you, if the board, to act upon this resolution to establish this cooperation agreement. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any board comment? Any public comment? All right, this is another roll call vote. Supervisor?
There's one comment.
Oh, there's one online. Sorry. Michelle Berger.
Yes, just a quick question. Is this only regarding equipment procurement, or does this also impact policing at the school district events?
This is for the Chester County Emergency Response Team. So it would be for primarily, our police department is primarily first response for any school events in Tredyffrin Township. What we would utilize this for is for those unusual situations that may require more resources. And unfortunately, that's the times that are happening across the country. This is something that's going to help us to be able to acquire equipment, and continue to operate in a cooperative environment with the other municipalities that we work with already.
Any other comments? All right, hearing none, this is a roll call vote. Supervisor Miller.
Aye.
Supervisor Humble.
Aye.
Supervisor Wysocki.
Aye.
Supervisor Freed.
Aye.
Supervisor Basker.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion carries. Next, we have a motion to approve Resolution 2022-16, authorizing the demand for payment from escrow for the completion of work previously authorized by Resolution 2022-16. Mr. Duraco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, a while ago, the board authorized staff to essentially go out and do the work for the 1067 Lancaster Avenue development. And, it took us a while, but we did go out and complete a couple of open-ended items that were required as part of their land development approval. The cost was higher than we had expected, therefore this resolution to gather those remaining funds for us. There's, I think, a little over 46,000 in the bank held in escrow. We'll be capturing, I think it's about $43,000. So happy to answer any questions.
All right, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any board comment? Any public comment? All right, hearing none. Another roll call vote. Supervisor Miller.
Aye.
Supervisor Humble.
Aye.
Supervisor Wysocki.
Aye.
Supervisor Freed.
Aye.
Supervisor Basker.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion carries. Next, we have a motion to approve settlement agreement between Tredyffrin Township and Tredyffrin Township Police Association. Mr. Duraco.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. This is wrapping up a personnel item between the township and the association. Happy to answer any questions that the board has.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any board comments? Any public comments? All right, all in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have a motion to approve capital purchase of IT infrastructure hardware. Mr. Duraco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The IT department is requesting approval of funds to upgrade certain infrastructure related to our network as well as security. I'm happy to answer any questions that the board might have.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any board comment?
Yes, Dr. Gussie. So I would like to, I'm basically heading towards making a motion to table this to the next meeting, or at least take some other action for the following reasons. So by way of explanation, I work in software, and so therefore the level of diligence that I would need to do to review the equipment for an IT purchase is obviously different from the diligence that I would require for, let's say, looking at zero-turn mowers or street sweepers or police cars, anything like that. And I literally got the list of equipment as I was getting in my car to drive home to get ready for the meeting. So for whatever reason, it didn't get to me. So overall, I'm supportive of the need to upgrade the equipment, but I personally would need time to do some due diligence, and it's not a lot of time. I would be able to do that in the next day or 2 days at most. So what I would like to do, and again, I'm not sure what so I made the motion to bring this up for discussion. But what I'd like to do is make an appropriate motion, and someone can tell me whether that's to table it till the next meeting or do something else. But ideally, what would be good is if we could have Mr. Mike Giristante talk to the vendor and see if they're willing to extend the quote till our next Board of Supervisors meeting. If they're not willing to do that, then at the very least we can, since in principle I'm supportive of it, we could always have an emergency meeting that then gets ratified at the next Board of Supervisors meeting. But for right now, I would respectfully ask for another couple of days to do my due diligence, because literally I got it at 4 o'clock and I was sitting in my car getting ready to drive home, and suddenly my phone goes ping, so I didn't actually start driving, but I checked the email right then, so thank you.
So did you want to make a motion to?
It would be a motion to table the
Yeah.
agenda item.
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to table the purchase to the approval of the purchase to the next meeting.
Do we have a second?
Okay, Can I ask a different question, maybe? I'm in favor of buying this. I'm not opposed to doing this now. Can we, I don't know how the rest of us all feel here, but I'm assuming most of us are in favor. Could we just delegate Bhaskar a couple days and let him look at it, and so they can get on and buy this? Can we give him like 3 days to
Can we
push his vote in?
vote and with a contingency or no?
You can vote with a contingency, but you're going to have to make a decision one way or the other tonight, either to approve or not.
Well, can we delegate to Bhaskar to just tell us yes or no? I mean, I'm willing to trust him that he knows what he's doing. If he thinks this is, for some reason, the township's making a mistake, that we table it till next week, and if he thinks the township is making a good choice, then we buy it.
So can we vote yes contingent on Bhaskar's approval?
That would be unusual to do it that way. I mean, you can, I don't know what there is. Is there a contract that has to be signed? I don't know if there's a proposal, if it's time sensitive.
It's a proposal, quote. The time sensitivity would really be the lead time from getting the hardware, which, as we know, can take a while.
You know, I would prefer, honestly, to just table it and then get the feedback from Bhaskar, and then if it's acceptable, then move forward with it and have you ratify the action at the August meeting.
Okay.
Due to the timing, but it would be, yes, it would be a discussion amongst staff with the board, so that at least you all understand what's going, and then you could ratify the decision in August. Correct.
I'm totally okay with that. I mean, we have somebody who's a domain expert, so we might as well take advantage of it, that's all.
So do you second the motion?
So the motion is a motion to
He
table.
made a motion to table it, and we still do not have a second. Would you like to
I'll
second
second
it?
that.
All right. Any other comments, or would we like to take this to vote?
Yeah, so we have a plan moving forward, which is, we take this motion off, you take a day or 2 or 3, you then communicate to us yay or nay, and then we approve, send emails in like we've done before, and then we ratify.
Staff will coordinate,
Yes,
making sure
right,
the board is
yeah.
appropriately and properly communicated with,
right.
correct.
I'm into appropriately and properly. Thank you.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. The table motion carries. All right. Now we have a motion to approve capital purchase of spare pump for Church Road Pump Station. Mr. Duraco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Generally speaking, we don't like to come to the board with unbudgeted requests, but due to some other issues within our, other pump stations, we are moving forward with this request of $93,366.50 for a spare pump for the Church Road Pump Station. The one thing I will say is that this is probably going to be one of our few expenses with the upgrades that are going to be happening at Church Road Pump Station. We're currently coordinating with the developer who was responsible for making those upgrades on the actual construction, but as part of our, Darren's due diligence and making sure that we don't have any interruptions in sewer service, this is one of the requests that we have, and due to a significant lead time, we're making this request now. I'm happy to answer any questions that the board has.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any board comment?
Mr. Duraco, this is coming from the sewer fund, not the general fund?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Any other board comment? Any public comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Now we are going to move to the discussion of Land Development Authority. I can kick this discussion off. The concept of our land development process and who has authority on those decisions comes up periodically, including last winter, so we just wanted to follow up on that and have a discussion today. So personally, for me, I think that our process works generally well with our Planning Commission having final authority over land development projects. So rather than changing that, I'm more in favor of finding other ways that we can improve the process. One thing that we kicked off this past January is an ordinance subcommittee, which includes staff, some supervisors, and Planning Commission representation. And this group now routinely reviews possible ordinance changes, has early discussions on projects before they reach land development, and I'm hoping that down the road this will provide a smooth way for our Planning Commission to discuss issues with supervisors and get their input when needed. And ultimately, this group could also proactively look at our codes with kind of the big picture view of our comprehensive plan to identify possible improvements. So for me, I'm thinking about kind of the process in that way. And at this time, I would not support taking the Land Development Authority away from the Planning Commission. Would any other supervisors like to speak?
Madam Chair, I agree with everything that you say. I don't want to see the board take the land development approval. I guess it never, not back, well, maybe to take it back. I believe that it works. I believe that it generally works. I mean, it has its bumps along the road. There's no question about that, but so would any process. I looked at this, and if the BOS, the Board of Supervisors, were to take land development approval authority back, we'd have in my opinion, a duplicative process, both at the Planning Commission level and at the Board of Supervisors level. You've had more expense, more time, more consultant time, additional meetings, etc. And I would say that I guess they do that at other jurisdictions, and maybe it works well, maybe it doesn't. I haven't looked at the data. But for me, our system works well now, and with the changes and modifications and enhancements that Chair Gussie mentioned, it would even work better. But what's ironic about turning it over to the Board of Supervisors, you probably get the same result. More likely than not, I'm just saying, you would get the same result as if you had never turned it over and it had remained with the Planning Commission. Why? Because the same code requirements apply whether the Planning Commission or the Board of Supervisors has the power of final approval. So if the process works correctly, chances are, I'm not saying not all the time for various reasons, you'd come out at the same place with a lot more angst. That's just my view. That's not my only reason for doing this. I mean, the base reason for me is I think it works. And with fine tuning, we can make it even better. Thanks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm going to be the contrarian tonight, I guess. I do think we should, I guess the parlance we're using is take the authority back. I think we should move forward on doing that. The vast majority of municipalities, particularly in this area, all do it the traditional way, which is the Board of Supervisors makes the final decision. Now, that's not a reflection on the Planning Commission. I think we have a terrific Planning Commission. They do a terrific job. I think the important thing And I think it's important for folks to understand is that the Planning Commission would not stop doing their job. The Planning Commission would continue to do the same job that they're doing. They would make the recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. However, the Board of Supervisors would be a stopgap. The Board of Supervisors would make the ultimate decision. The Board of Supervisors, the elected officials, would be the ones with the ultimate responsibility for the final decision, and the ultimate ones with the, to answer to the public. I think that's the way it should be done. I think that's the way it's generally done. I don't think it adds that much work. I think there might be occasions for something particularly controversial where it would be a big thing, and frankly, if it's something that's going to be a big and time-consuming process, and maybe that means that the public's interested enough that we should be taking time and looking at it. I think, and we've heard before on some other projects, that I believe the community wants the Board of Supervisors, the elected officials, to be the ones that take the responsibility for the action. Again, and I do agree with Supervisor Wysocki that I think 99, maybe even 99.9% of the times, it's not going to be a different result. But I think we need the ability to make that final decision based on the recommendations of the Planning Commission, and frankly, it doesn't change the fact the Planning Commission are the experts. They have the expertise. They're appointed. They're from the various construction and zoning and planning, walks of life for the most part. They're the ones that that are going to make the recommendations. They're the ones that have the knowledge. Frankly, the municipality's planning code requires that they be the ones that review a lot of these things, just as the county planning commission also has to review these things. But that's my reason for believing we should take the authority, the final decision, and again, I don't think it takes anything away from the planning commission. It just, yes, it adds a layer. I don't think it's a very big layer, and would put us in a position to be answerable to the public.
So I have, sorry.
I was going to say I agree with Mark Freed on all these points about why the Board of Supervisors should take back the final approval authority. Definitely, I agree with Murph that 90% of the time we would never hear about it. I think some of these are minor enough or non-controversial enough that they wouldn't reach our level. But I know, particularly with the Altera project that was going in District 2, that had everybody very upset on Russell Road, and there were a few things about it. Not having knowledge about things, the fact that one of the members purchased the property right next to it, even though he later recused himself, he learned about the buying opportunity first from his role on the board. And I think because so many other townships like ours have final approval in the Board of Supervisors, I think that's a good idea. I do think the vast majority of our township citizens do want the Board of Supervisors to have the final authority. They want to feel like the persons making these decisions are accountable to them. And without that, the Planning Commission has a great deal of authority, but they weren't elected by the citizens whose actions definitely are affected. It's on a similar thing. For example, last year, 2 years ago, the Board of Supervisors changed signage requirements in zoning rules as to how big signs could be or not. And part of the reason is the signs have been getting so big in our township. But in February, there was a hearing at the zoning hearing board that I attended and spoke at regarding signage for this new indoor soccer place going in next to Golf Galaxy on Sweetsford Road. And The person who appeared was not the tenant, not the business owner. He was the vendor who would be providing the sign, and they gave him standing, even though I objected to him having standing to speak about it. And he spoke about that the people, building the business wanted a bigger sign because other signs in that area are really big, and that otherwise they thought they would have a disadvantage. So even though the Board of Supervisors changed the rules, as goes signage and the sizes to start trying to bring it down, the zoning hearing board voted against those opposing it and have allowed the bigger signage. So, that's an example of if the residents wanted to go against it, then they have to, file a lawsuit, and it becomes very expensive when, in my opinion, the law on the books should have controlled. So that's my opinion, and that's why I would like to see the Board of Supervisors take back the final land development authority. Thank you.
Thank you. So first I'm going to start with a question, which is that it's my understanding that this is just discussion today. We're not actually making any decisions today. Thank you. So for me, my decision is that I'm on the fence, which I can see both sides. I think that I agree that as the elected representatives of the citizens of Tredyffrin, the buck needs to stop with us. And that makes a strong case for the Board of Supervisors having the final say-so. On the other hand, I also am concerned about, possibly having to sit up here till 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm concerned about the Board of Supervisors possibly getting bogged down in its work because we have a lot of things that we need to deal with. So there is a concern about the board getting bogged down, though some of that concern is alleviated by the process where the decision gets made and comes to us for approval, and only those things which are contentious are the ones that, where we involve a lot of time on our part. So I think that part is okay. I do also think that, we want to get all of our boards are volunteer powered, and we want to make sure that we attract talent to the board, to the various boards, not just the Planning Commission, but all the other boards. So I would like to do this in such a way that they don't feel that, that it doesn't, there's no value to them in volunteering to serve. So I think it can be done in a way that all of those are made to work, but again, I'm glad we're not making a decision today. If I had to make a decision today, I'd come out in favor of taking it back from the Planning Commission, but I'd like to understand a little bit more about the process and how it's going to work before making a decision. Thank you.
What percent of the communities around us actually have final planning authority with the Planning Commission versus the supervisors?
What I can tell you is you're the only one that I'm aware of in Chester County.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
It's roughly 20-some, I think, across the Commonwealth, something like that.
Oh, 20 out of the, how many?
Yeah, 2,500. It's not a lot that I'm aware of.
Yeah, okay. So clearly it works the other way pretty effectively, otherwise other people would be changing.
Well, that's up to you to...
I'm going to make that, because you don't have to answer that, so I wasn't a question. That was just an observation, like I'm not sure that all these people would be doing it the other way if it doesn't work for them. I would love to hear from the Planning Commission, actually, a little bit on what their view is, and obviously Tori's the only one I can see that's on here, just to hear what they think about this. I mean, I'm the newest one here and have been the Planning Commission liaison, but I've only had a handful of meetings because it's only July. So I'd like to get a little more time to see how it all works, honestly, is how I feel. I can see it both ways. I mean, it does seem to work in the township pretty well. I've been in front of the Planning Commission on several occasions and arguing about things, and have always had them find them to be very reasonable. On the other hand, as a voter, I would like to be able to have the ability to talk directly to the elected official and, be able to hold them accountable if I really am super unhappy with what they decide. But that gets to Murph's point and your point, which is that, or Julie's point, or Dr. Gussie's point, that it potentially politicizes some of these decisions, which they really aren't. In many cases, or in most cases, are not political decisions. They're just, here's what the code says, here's what you're allowed to do, and off you go. Yeah, it's a long way of saying I don't think I've decided yet, but I would like to hear from the Planning Commission. They're difficult people to talk to, by the way. Just to try to get lunch with them or something is not that easy. So I think we should hear from them next time and hear what they have to say on the topic, would be my suggestion.
Yeah, and I'll just add, we'll see if Tori wants to speak, but the politicizing is a major concern for me. That really gives me pause. Tori, I don't know if you're there, if you want to speak, or it's okay if you don't. All right. Okay.
Hi, I probably have a terrible connection. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So, I understand both sides, but I guess, the Planning Commission does have the expertise. I do think that you guys are right in saying that most decisions would not change if it went to the board. The final development authority went to the board, because really it all comes down to the code, what the code has to say. And, the biggest disadvantage of switching the Land Development Authority final approval to the board is that it's just the additional administrative time and, effort, really. Politicizing of the decisions, which, hopefully it wouldn't happen anyhow, but, I understand that if you're an elected official, you're going to feel some pressure if a neighbor doesn't like something, even though if it complies with the code. So, you identify the issues, and I'm available, David, anytime to get together. But in the end, it's up to you guys, obviously.
Thank you, Tori. All right, do we have any other comments before we close this discussion?
What's the next step?
Is there public comment?
Yeah, and the next step, I guess, is public comment. Mr. Coonan.
Mr. Coonan, are you there?
Do we want to switch to Mr. P? Okay.
Hello, can you folks hear me? Hello? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, right. Yeah, your voices are low, but I think that's something at my end. Well, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I am Mark Pivar, and I'm speaking on behalf of Mr. Joe Natoli, who is ill this evening and couldn't.
Mr. Pivar, 1 second, I'm sorry. We're not finished. They're still on the discussion item, land development, item AH. We're almost there, so.
Oh, I'm sorry. Again, I misunderstood. I heard public comment.
No worries.
It's very soon.
Cool. Yeah.
All right, do we have any other comments to close out the land development discussion? All right, then we can move to board member new matters. Do we have any board member new matters?
I received an email over the weekend, and this is probably better directed for Aaron McPherson, where the Boy Scouts at Devon 50 are worried about construction activity in the wetlands area on the property of the Islamic Society of Great Valley. They They've reported that the Islamic Society is dumping truckloads of dirt in the low-level area where the Chalk Creek tributary runs. And because things are dry, it's supporting the heavy equipment hauling the dirt for now, but they're concerned it's going to cause greater runoff from all the tributaries down to, as the creek goes down and underneath Old State Road, and then continues behind Clark Field baseball field till it goes under 202 and to the shopping center. So the homes on Old State Road there near the creek and on Lower Coldstream, that a great deal of increased flooding is coming from that tributary, and they are concerned that the construction going on there now is going to increase the runoff as well. And so the residents around Old State and Coldstream are worried about this project as well and want to know if the township knows about it and can comment about it.
Yeah, I will, I guess, briefly discuss it. We did get an email regarding it. Mr. Bergen and I had discussed it earlier today. He actually went out to the site, so I know he has more input. My understanding was there was some minor earth disturbed, and they actually stabilized those areas, and it wasn't really affecting the floodplain, but I'll let Mr. Burgo, since he was on site, discuss more.
Yes, Supervisor Humble, I actually was on site today. I actually talked to somebody from DEP about it. The couple soil piles that they had out there were topsoil that supposedly they were clearing vegetation that was basically in some debris. There is a lot of debris in that general area where it's located. It's not in the floodplain proper. It's on the other side of the stream to the west, and they basically added some topsoil, and they did have it seeded and strawed already. So the representative from DEP offered to meet with us out there, but he said that they just basically cleaned up that area because they said that they were looking to mow that area and be able to do it. They were having trouble getting their equipment back in there. It was basically getting stuck in ruts, and with all the debris there, it was having a hard time cutting the grass. So there was no signs of trouble out there today on that visit.
When you mentioned debris, do you mean construction debris from like a past project, or do you mean debris from the trees that comes downstream? Or, you know,
there's just a lot of there's a
litter?
lot of woody debris, and there's some old equipment in there, I guess. I don't know which property the equipment's on, but there's a lot of just general refuse down there, just in general. There's some old trucks, and I don't know which property they're on. It's just rusted, some vehicles and things like that with vines growing on it, and woody, invasives on the side. So they had done some clearing before, and it looks like they just cleaned up that area and tried to seed it and kind of level it off a little bit so it wasn't all undulated, so they can be able to get back there and cut it with their equipment.
Thank you.
All right, any other board member new matters? Any citizen new matters? All right, this is the time.
Well, thank you for the third time. I appreciate it. And now we're pretty much at the end of the meeting. I'm speaking on behalf of Joe Natoli. He is an excavator. He's ill at home this evening. He was kind of coughing and sniffling, and I said, better you stay home. Joe Natoli helped to close out a project known, I believe, as the Preserve, and there were 4 building lots there. He was brought in to do one of the lots for one of the last homeowner, I believe, who came there. And he did the work. And along the way, it came to be understood that the township, for some reason, changed the stormwater design. At least it appears that way on paper. It appears that back around the turn of the current century, the folks who subdivided the land had gotten permission from the township and everyone else to put in a silt detention basin with off-site discharge into a nearby stream. And there was no provision at that time or ever, no escrow was set aside to have any infiltration on site. So the project was built out. there's a maintenance agreement that goes on all the properties, which is standard, and it says that all of the homeowners agree to pay equally for any maintenance or other costs that are involved with the maintenance of the common property, which is the road system. The stormwater design issue I'm speaking of was solely to handle the sped up runoff from the roads. That's what it was all about. So if you fast forward around 16, 17 years, along comes Mr. Natoli in a letter that on record that was sent to a successor board such as yourselves back in 2017 in September, fundamentally saying, hey, I was brought in to do the stormwater basin work. I was told that there was money for it, and the township told me what to do, and they inspected my work. I did it. The people moved, the last house moved in, and I haven't been paid. And to this day, now 5 years later, he remains unpaid. Actually, he should have been paid in 2016. That's what I've called is to sensitize you to the existence of an issue. And typically, with any of these construction issues, you can get absolutely lost with the detail. Bottom line is, just as you folks had a very simple motion that passed unanimously on a not even a roll call vote, you entertained and put in and passed a motion to pay your township employees. I'm assuming perhaps they were your inspectors and engineers and others. I don't know who they were, because they had done work, and you authorized the release of escrow money to pay them, which is normal, absolutely normal and proper thing to do. In this situation, the township used the escrow money that was available to pay its employees back when this extra work was done, even though there was no specific money set aside for the work that was done. There was enough money, so all your employees were paid timely. The only one that wasn't paid is Mr. Natoli. Now, the amount that he has not been paid is in very close to $52,000, and that was in the old numbers before we were hit with inflation. Back on it was July the 1st, I sent a very simple accounting that Mr. Martin reviewed. I later called in and spoke with your Director of Finance. At least through email, we had an exchange. And the exchange, I felt, was not properly engaged with the detail that was submitted. What I'm asking for this evening is a motion from some soul on the board that will recommend a committee or another group or a person who you deem to be the right person to evaluate and see how we can get Mr. Natoli paid the amount that is deemed to be appropriate. He's asking for $51,000, yet he already received $19,000 of that from one of the homeowners who was anxious to move in. So that reduced the unpaid balance down to almost $33,000. Then he got a payment from a township, a consultant who was helping to finish out the project because of bankruptcies that had happened. So the unpaid balance due to Mr. Natoli is only $30,000. In 2019, there's a certified letter from you folks saying that at that point there was $40,000 available in the escrow balance. So that says to me there was plenty of money to pay the balance that was not paid to Mr. Natoli. In fact, there's a surplus of escrow funds, and my letter recommends that you could consider using the surplus of escrow funds to reimburse one of the homeowners, named Larry's son, who generously put up enough money to get the project wrapped up. He's really owed back some of that money. And then because the maintenance agreement says, hey, all the homeowners are responsible for paying for any shortfalls to hold the township harmless, it comes down to that if the other three homeowners each pay Mr. Sun about $2,300, then all the homeowners equally bear the true shortfall of paying off Mr. Natoli in full, and the township doesn't have to pay a penny towards this, and this rather difficult situation for a very small excavator will have ended. He really is hurting for lack of this quantity of money, and of course this would involve a little bit of paperwork that has never been produced by you folks outlining how the monies are being equally and proportionately shared. So I've given you more detail than is easy to absorb just hearing it, and I'm asking that for someone to make a motion to have an inquiry and to ask for whatever evidence need to be produced. Everything I said is backed up by Freedom of Information documents that were sent to me from your office. They're readily available. And let's get Mr. Natoli paid the final $30,000 that he is owed. You've got $40,000 to do it with. So I would ask whether anyone would care to make such a motion or to otherwise help to move this, to resolve this and get him paid. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you for coming out and speaking. It was a lot of information. I think offline we can try to understand the situation further. I don't think it's something we can solve here tonight. Do we have any board comment or?
Would that be a matter more for the Finance Committee to discuss?
Staff has discussed this in detail with the solicitor. We've provided the feedback, and we're very clear with Mr. Pivar about how those funds would be released to pay Mr. Natoli. But like Chair suggested, offline discussion is best since it is a legal matter.
Can I ask a quick question? Did we hire Mr. Natoli?
No, we did not. We had nothing to do with that.
Got it, thank you.
Do we have any other citizen comments? It looks like Mr. Pivar wants to respond.
Thank you. There is an urgent need to address this. If you deem this to be a legal matter, then you'll proceed that way. Myself, I sat on the Planning Commission of the Borough of Kennett Square as the chairman for 7 years. This matter is a very routine financial issue. I don't like to dispute people who I don't know, or to not trying to make anyone look bad. The truth is, no explanation has been given to Mr. Natoli. The dialogue has not really happened. No one, if anyone has explained why he hasn't been paid, the closest thing that happened was a statement I just received a few days ago saying that Mr. Natoli has not signed releases. Well, the fact is no releases of any kind have been sent to Mr. Natoli for the last 5 years. So I'm just imploring someone to get a little fresh point of view who is not entrenched in whatever the reason is. To say that he was not employed or that the township had nothing to do with it, I have copies of emails and internal correspondence that were given to me that all show that your inspectors, your consultants, your engineers directed his work. This was not like he built a shed for one of the people that was there. He was doing work that the township required, that the township inspected and approved and created a punch list, which he finished. And he is entitled to make right anything wrong that he did, since he did the work and people moved in and got final certificates of occupancy because of his work. It's obvious that the town accepted his work, and the town is holding up escrow money, which has no other legal right to hold that money other than to pay people who are entitled.
Thank you, Mr. Pivar. I think in any case, we're not going to solve this tonight. We can discuss further offline.
I just have one question, if I may, very briefly. Mr. Pivar, who was Mr. Natoli's contract with?
Mr. Natoli had no actual written contract that
Who hired Mr. Natoli?
It seems that that is a cloudy issue, and I'm a general contractor myself. I would tell you directly, I know that the township received and approved the quotation that he gave to the homeowners. There's no...
That's not, my question is who hired him? Who hired him to do the work?
Well, I really cannot say. I think there's not what you look at.
I think it's an important thing to answer because whoever hired him may be the one that needs to pay him.
Well, a contract is an offer and an acceptance, and the offer was from the township and from the homeowners all together, that if he did...
Which ones? Was it the township or the homeowners?
All four homeowners asked him to quote. The quote he then gave to the township, who approved that the amount was within what they thought...
Well, the townships always approve work and have to oversee work of a contract. Doesn't mean that the township hired him. I'm trying to understand who hired him to do the work. Who had the contract, whether it was a written or verbal, who had the contract with him?
Well, I truly don't know the answer, and I'm very familiar with contracts.
I think that's an important thing that we're going to need to answer.
You know that the township is withholding the money from the person that everyone agrees did the work, and the township actually is the one who accepted the work and approved it.
All right.
So we can say that they approved. And I did not expect an answer tonight. I'm asking for an orderly way to bring this to resolution. It's not fair for him to wait after the 5 years after doing the work that the township wanted and the homeowners wanted. It's not fair for him to wait while your own employees don't have to wait at all to get escrow funds. It's that simple.
All right, thank you, and we can discuss further and learn more information offline. Do we have any other citizen comments tonight? All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? That concludes our meeting. Thank you.